Hey guys, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews in the most echoey, reverby little computer case chamber I've ever built. I've got two cases here by a new company called Geometric Future. They reached out to me to launch their new stuff and it's been very impressive so far. So today I'm going to take you in and do a review on the Model 6. Now I'll also have a review on the Model 8 and of course you'll find that review next week or so. Before I talk about anything with these cases, I have to say both of them decently well packaged. A lot of cases don't come with proper packaging. These have, I think, just about thick enough styrofoam they can get away with for shipping purposes. But let's get the big boy out of the way so I can talk about the Model 6. Alright, so the Geometric Future Model 6, and this is the Dali edition. I really like how Geometric Future has all these base cases, they have the 6 and the 8, and there are a few different versions of each case. For them it means they can have a pretty big portfolio of products, but the internals are all the same. Basically what they do is they change out the front, maybe the top, maybe stick some dead cow on the side. But first up, I already showed you the packaging foam. You also get this in the packaging, some Velcro cable ties and a little bag with screws in it. What they try and achieve here is solve a lot of airflow problems. As you can maybe see behind you, I run my computer case without the front panel because if I run it with the front panel, it overheats. These guys hope to fix that problem by going with vertical airflow. So this is a vertical airflow case. The motherboard is rotated 90 degrees, which is not just good for airflow in theory, but also it means your big, heavy, expensive graphics card is vertical and therefore there's no GPU sag. And with this one you can even mount the graphics card on a little riser, which is not included, but you can do that. So it's got a glass side panel on both sides, but it doesn't use that sort of annoying thumb screw in either corner. It actually uses quite a nice thumb screw design. But as you can see, does this focus? So it's a square thumb screw, really nice. None of these were over tightened from the factory either. And on the inside of the glass panel, there's a metal frame and even some foam here, so you don't get any rattling from the panel. I really love this design. And then on the front area, there are these little thingies here which help lock the panel in place when you're positioning it. Something I would like is maybe a little detent here, so it's easier to get your hand in when you want to remove the panels. But other than that, I really like the side panels on this. And by removing the side panel on the main side of the case, you can now see the internals. So you have your power supply shroud. It's closed at the bottom, and you can actually see the Geometric Future logo in the top here if you want your power supply to intake from this side. However, moving to the back, little dust filter here for your power supply, magnetically attached, and it's also got their logo on it. I think that's so cool that they did that. And also the Geo logo in the bottom, maybe a little bit harder to see on camera. At the top, they actually have a little detent here, as I would love to see for the side panels. And you can just lift out the top panel, which is a very fine mesh top panel. Two little detents over here that clip into place, and then this is a little latch that latches into the front. Overall, a very nice design. Moving over to the back side, a glass side panel again on the motherboard tray side. I'm not really sure if I like this or not, because, well, what you get a lot with this sort of stuff is you have to really pay attention to your cable management, which of course is something I like to do, but it's not something everyone likes to do. So I/O-wise, a big USB 3 header, HD audio, and your I/O lights, as well as your power switch. Over here you can also see you have room for 1, 2, 3, 4 SSDs. No room for big old hard drives. So if you want to put a 3.5-inch hard drive in this case, well, you're out of luck. What you do have is a lot of room for your power supply and all of its cables to come out here, and then there's over, I think that's just about 3 centimeters of room here for your cables, so you can route those big cables here. And because the motherboard is rotated 90 degrees, your motherboard power header will just go through here or through here. So it's a pretty long run for your motherboard 24 pin. and as a result there won't be any like cable twisting and bunching up there. And if you do have some excess cable, you can just shove it over here. Now the SSD mounts, they are okay but not great, so let's see if I can bring you in up close. Uses the same like square captive thumb screw over here, but you'll have to use individual screws to screw in each one of your hard drives. It's not toolless. Is that a big problem? I don't really think so. I mean, people generally these days only run one, maybe two SSDs with NVMe storage on the motherboard, so that's all fine. What I do miss here is tie-down points for your cables. They include these Velcro strips, and while there are some little slots in here that maybe you can use, I don't really see enough of them. So it's going to be hard to, well, basically clean up your cable mess behind this glass panel. As I said, this is the Dali edition, which is a mesh with some yellow accents. You can also get it in a Van Gogh, which I really love, but it was out of stock. And that's like a cloth finish, so it's like gray and then some light gray cloth on the front. This very bright yellow may not be the easiest to color coordinate your build with, but if you like yellow, then well, this is it. This will breathe air quite well. Again, it's got their Geometric Future logo as the mesh or as the grill. Looks really cool. There's some screws here, so if you want to like take out the yellow to paint it a different color, it's screwed in place, not glued in place, so that's really nice. One little downside though is there's no dust filtration here. The only dust filter you have with this case is actually at the bottom. So if we now rotate the case once more to move to the bottom, over here you have a magnetic mount dust filter. It's a very fine dust filter. It's going to be quite easy to get it out to clean. However, every time you want to take out this dust filter to clean it, you have to rotate the case 90 degrees in some direction to actually get access to the bottom here. Airflow is pretty big with these Geometric Future cases, so you have room for 120s but also for 140s. Of course, if you put a 140 in here, a lot of it is going to be blocked off by the 120 mount, so maybe don't bother with 140s. The same goes for the front area. You have rails here, so you can mount your 120s, 140s, radiators, combinations with those fans. You can mount those all quite nicely and you can position them however you want. However, the 120 bracket is probably going to occupy a lot of room for your 140mm fans. Now, as I said, this is a vertical airflow case, and so the back of it is actually the top. Now, in this back-top area, 120mm fan mount, no 140s here, nice little room for your I/O plate, and then you have 7 PCI slots here, again with their logo as the hole. That's so cool. And then you also have 2 vertical mounts, so if you want to put your graphics card vertically, you can do it with these mounts. With my graphics card, it's a bit too thick, so I can't really do that, but it is of course a possibility. Now, the big problem with vertical airflow cases is all your I/O is at the top of the case. Now, if you want good Wi-Fi reception with onboard Wi-Fi, that's awesome. However, it also does mean that you can't put anything on top of your case. You can't put your case in a cabinet somewhere where you can't easily access the top, because each time you want to plug in a USB stick, for example, the top panel has to come off. Now, all your cables will have to come out of the top and then go through this hole here. Now, this hole can easily fit 4 fingers. However, I would like it if it was like a wide letterbox sort of thing with like a brush sort of grommet in there to make everything a little bit cleaner looking. Right now it's just going to be one massive tree of cables coming out of here. So I talked about most sides of the case except the actual motherboard area, and that's because there's not a whole lot to say. You get some cable routing holes. You can fit an e-atx motherboard in. Graphics card, well, any graphics card will work depending on how thick a radiator and fan combo you put in the bottom. Pretty much up to a 420mm radiator in the bottom. This is where your motherboard is. There's not going to be a whole lot of thickness here to put a radiator and fan combo in here. It's obviously offset a little bit, but I don't like it when it overhangs my VRM heatsinks and such. So I'm going to put a PC in here and I'll be right back. So something you have with cases like this is the cables all exit vertically, and depending on your connector, for example my power supply cable here, the bend radius may be too tight for what the cable can handle. So what I have here with my power supply cable is I can now get it in, but at first the rear clip wouldn't lock in place because I actually had to squash that power supply cable quite hard. Now with me it was borderline, but with some cables that you have it may be more problematic. Right then, so the thing with vertical airflow is you still need airflow, and Geometric Future with both the Model 6 and the Model 8 has these U-shaped feet, so they go all the way forwards, around, and then all the way back again. And so they do the same at the back of the case. So you have about a third of the width of the case where air can get in, but you also have a dust filter here in the bottom. So the total amount of volume of air, or I guess area that the air can travel through, is about the same as a hand, because it's less than a finger thick. I can barely get a pinky underneath. So if I just put a little light bar behind it, you can really see how little air can go under the case and then travel upwards. I don't understand why they don't use this logo, extrude it a little bit and use that as feet, so they can actually get some air underneath the case and then travel upwards to cool the system. Now about the build, I was not able to suddenly afford a brand new computer, and so the parts inside this computer are still my old Ryzen 1700 and GTX 970. I did take some inspiration from Noctua and ASUS's cooler joint venture, and this is really nice about vertical cases is there's no droop at all on your graphics card because it's hanging vertically all the way, supported by the PCI bracket at the top along with your PCI slot in there. So that's not really going to be much of a problem. Geometric Future also sent me the Junior Eskimo or Eskimo Junior 360mm radiator all-in-one liquid cooler. This works really good. It's quite a quiet cooler, but I'm not going to do a review on it because I don't have enough other components to compare it to. But yeah, decent cooler. I have no idea how expensive or how cheap this is. It looks good. It performs decently, I guess, if you know it got some more airflow. But yeah, that's that. Now the build was fairly simple. I didn't check the time. I think if I didn't go with this cooler and the RGB and the annoying fan screws, it was half an hour for the entire build. So that was very okay. As you can see, the main chamber here is incredibly basic. There's really nothing going on here at all, just motherboard, some RAM, a cooler and a graphics card. So I think the important thing to talk about is the back. And before we even get to the back, I did a little thing here. So this is actually the controller for the RGB colors on the cooler. I can just press the button over here. Because this is a magnetic filter and there's a lot of cutout here, I could easily just slip it through. I didn't notice any problem with wireless dongles. So I tried a ASUS Wi-Fi Bluetooth dongle, a Logitech, whatever it's called, dongle, and a Logitech, whatever it is, but different dongle. Moving on to the cable mess side of the PC. As you can see, I was wrong. You can mount hard drives to it. It's using the same bracket as the SSD brackets, you just mount them in the other direction. And also, despite putting in minimal effort for cable management, you can see all the cables are in here. There's a bit of a rat's nest going on here because of the size of the case. I had to use an extra SATA power cable. Usually I get away with just one, now I had to use two. It happens, but it fits, it closes, and there's no way to tie cables up at all. There are a few slots here, so you have a little slot here, slot there. There's some along the top here as well. Two slots here, maybe these can be used with like the Velcro strap going through and then back, but most of these slots are singular slots, so there's no way you can put a Velcro in and have it come out again to, I don't know, tie up your cables. So at the top here, this is just hanging loose. In the bottom, I was able to push it in a little gutter that's there, but it's not ideal. Moving to the bottom of the case, the magnetic dust filter, every time you want to remove this dust filter, because it's using these U-shaped feet that I talked about earlier, instead of a filter you can pull out from the front or the back or the side, every time you want to take the filter out, you'll have to put your computer on its side, or you simply cannot access this little filter. This thing is pretty heavy. I didn't put any fans in because I couldn't be bothered, because I now have to take this entire build and put it in the Model 8 that they sent me so I can compare it and talk to you guys about the Model 8 as well. Alright then guys, time for a conclusion on the Geometric Future Model 6 Dali. And for a first effort by a company new to the consumer computer case product sphere, I think it's a solid effort. It's a really well built case, it looks good, it has some innovative ideas, real nice attention to certain details, but it really lacks a bit in cable management and also the feet and the choking of the main intake, the main selling point, the vertical airflow with this case. If you put this on carpet, it will absolutely choke, and you can really realistically only use the front of the case as an intake. If you were to change the feet yourself or maybe put it on some other feet to lift up the bottom a bit, the cooling performance is much better. That would be it for me for this video. Get subscribed if you want to see the Model 8 video, which is probably coming next week. I now have to take this thing apart again and put it into another case. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!